repeat the non-conformist oath. I promise to be different. I promise to be unique. I promise not to repeat things other people say.
And welcome back to another positive blathering with Fitz. That's me, Fitz, and we're doing this from Rockbox Recording and Production Studio in the Basin. And it's episode number 41. My guest today, Mr. Josh Pies of C47
That's
Films.
me.
That's this guy. And quite possibly one of the most positive people that I've ever met in Rochester in the production community as well. And we're going to talk about movie making. We're going to talk about production, small business ownership, family, and 10 or 11 other subjects we can squeeze into today. What do you think?
I'm game. What's the record? Do we have a record? We should try to beat the record.
I don't know. Let's set the record, and then next time you can come back and we can beat it.
All right. I'm
in. I'm going to start the timer.
Go.
All right. So now you're a Rochester guy.
Born and raised.
Now you live in Orlando.
Yes.
And you come back to Rochester now and again?
No, not even now and again. I mean, I'm here, I don't know, anywhere between 3 and 6 week cycles, you know.
Really?
Yeah, I'm here a lot. The people at Southwest Air actually recognize me. I get hugs from Eric. Eric, if you're listening or watching this, dude, Pastor Eric's awesome. Pastor Eric, who works at Southwest.
He's a pastor and he's a flight attendant?
He works at the gate.
Oh, he works at the gate?
Yeah, sweetheart of a guy.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Frequent flyer mileage.
Yeah, we won't talk about the glad-handed little upgrades I occasionally get. It's pretty sweet. I got on early once.
Glad-handing
Yeah.
with Josh Pies.
That sounds awful, by the way.
It does.
We're not going to say that again.
It sounds dirty.
Yes.
We're just going to stay away from the dirtiness.
I know nothing about that.
So I'm just going to go back to the first moment I saw you. It was my first introduction to the Rochester movie makers. It was a meeting.
Okay.
I want to say it was.
Was that the one at the library?
That was the one at the library where you were talking about rental gear with
Yeah.
that other guy.
Well, I had just parted ways working from EFP.
Yeah. It was him.
Great production company locally. Steve Delmonte owns that, and
it was Mark. Was it Mark or who's the other Del Monte?
I don't know another Del Monte.
Aren't there brothers in that business?
Oh, yeah, Steve's brother, who I don't actually know.
Then it wasn't him. That must have been Steve.
Yeah, no, Steve was there.
Okay,
Yep.
right.
Actually, I'll tell a little behind the scenes because it's about 10 years. Steve was actually there to make sure that I didn't badmouth him. And the reason why is
badmouth?
he was afraid of it. I wish
He must not have
better.
known you. Yeah, I was going to say he must not have known you very well because you're not a badmouth kind of guy.
No. Well, the thing is, I had just left working for him. I had been there for a year.
Yeah.
I feel like I did some good things, left some positive improvement there. But it was time for me to start my own practice. And it was a little tense going out because I don't think they wanted me to go out. But I really think he was just afraid of what I would say because, of course, I was talking on the topic of, oh, my gosh, that's my wife calling. I was supposed to,
What does that say? What did that say on your phone?
It said my girl. And then it was also her name next to it.
Okay.
Yes. No, it wasn't
I
anything
saw a
crazy.
whole sentence. I'm like, what's going on there? It's your wife and it's a sentence? All right.
No, my girl.
My girl.
And Shannon Pies.
That's sweet.
I don't know how it ended up in there twice, but cool. But anyhow, I'll call her back. I'm on the air. So that was an interesting thing because I was talking about all my experiences in the rental world to try to share with movie makers an understanding of how to approach getting gear. It's important,
which is still a valuable lesson to be learned.
Sure. And so, I was there to talk about the basics, the theory of, what the heck is a grip truck? What are you going to get on a grip truck? Mm-hmm. Why do you talk about a 1 ton, a 3 ton, a 5 ton package? What is that going to get you? And day rates versus weekly rates, and how do you calculate them, and all that stuff, and just the industry standards, because every business is going to be a little bit different. And then I came with a cheat sheet of who to call in town. And top of the list was EFP because they're a great resource for a small grip truck. And then Mammoth was on there, and Gearhead was new back then. And
Gearhead was around then?
Just barely. That was like just a new thing. So I listed Gearhead. And I think even Eric McMaster was still doing stuff. I don't know if he still is, but I had him on the list. And then I had New York City resources like Scott Levy down at Eastern Effects, who is the man. If you want to get like the biggest cache of gear in the planet, I mean, that's a legit New York City rental company.
Yeah.
But he's got Rochester roots. He worked for Mammoth for a while. He's an Ithaca film grad and possibly also one of the nicest people I know. So it was cool to be like, hey, movie makers who aspire to make full movies.
Yeah.
When you want to do something that is outside of the gear ability of Rochester, we're a small market. We don't have all the movie tools. We have a ton of them. But if you need the big stuff, here's a resource, and he's got a heart for Rochester. So I did the whole thing, and it was great. And actually, I ended up making a number of friends, you being one of them.
Yeah, and that was great because that lesson that I learned that day has paid me back ever since then.
Oh, well, that actually just made me happy. I didn't realize that.
And the other thing is, and we were talking about this off mic earlier, is how there in filmmaking in certain circles there's this, it's almost, I don't know how to describe it, it's like this this ego, or
it's competitive.
Throw in a word, it's competitive, but what's the word? I can't think of the word.
Is it kind of like negatively competitive though? Is that word?
Well, what I'm trying to say is we were talking about using the tools that you have to the best of the best of your ability, and snobbery is the word I was looking for, right? So when you say, hey, I'm gonna go shoot this thing, and all I have is an iPhone, and I have a 10-year-old HD camera, doesn't even shoot 1080p. And you go through the laundry list of what I have. I'm going to hodgepodge this little kit together, but the story's awesome, and we know how to use these tools,
right?
And we're going to make something really great. And other people will be like, "You're going to make it," and then you're going to shoot that on the phone.
Yeah, no, and those other people, sadly for them, are going to miss out on the opportunity to work their own skills, tell a story. Learn from any opportunities. There are no fails, I don't believe, in life. There's only opportunities to learn. So you got to try something. And the people who are like, well, I would only shoot that on this camera, and since I don't have access to it, screw the idea.
That's a great attitude.
Yeah, it's just one of those winner attitudes that is going to get you nothing. In fact, that's a lot of the stuff I do online right now. I mean, I do my darndest to make sure that people don't think I'm always going to shoot on a cell phone. But you've got that professional video world where you do the professional things that are expected. But then I found that, and I guess I'll just jump into kind of what I've been doing recently, because it's a nice segue. It was saddening me that I was turning small businesses away. There's some businesses where they have an idea and they want something done,
but they can't afford you.
Not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about the ones who are, a 3-man plumbing operation who just really wishes their social media game was on point.
Yeah.
And they've got $400 and they want a video.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not going to do anything for $400 in video creation. I'm not going to do creative and go through the whole process and lose my shirt.
Right.
And that sucked because I kind of like these people, and not only kind of, I usually like these people.
Right.
And whoever it is, I want to help them. So it was kind of the kick in my pants that I got to do something. But what is that? So I've been kind of dual purposing my social media presence. Some of it has been, I'll create content that is instructive for that crowd. Hey, you can do it. You own, and this is my phrase, you own the most powerful film tool on the planet. It's your cell phone.
Right.
It can shoot HD or higher. It can edit if you download a free app or a paid cool app if you want to go there. And it's got an internet connection. And you can post it to YouTube, which is free. And you can do it all from the middle of the mall if you want to, anywhere on the planet, as long as you've got basic reception and some light. So you don't have an excuse like, gee, I don't have a film tool. Mm-hmm. You've got one of the most amazing things ever. Louis C.K. does this great bit about how he's frustrated when he's watching somebody go, I can't get my email. It's taking so long. And he's like, That's got to go to a satellite in outer space and come back down to you. Hundreds of miles of travel. Can you give it 12 seconds, please? And, he's right.
Yeah.
We're such a weird society. It's like, well, if I can't have it completely digitally perfect, then I won't do anything. It's magic in your pocket. Have an idea and do something.
That's another thing that you should never say again on this podcast.
Well, maybe not on this podcast, but
Magic
I'm
in
a
your
happily
pocket?
married man, so you never know if that might just come out of my mouth at some point.
No, but that's all so valuable, and what you're doing. So you're basically helping people. You turn instead of turning them away and going, well, see you, pal.
Yeah.
Better luck next time. Go hang out next to Full Sail and and grab one of the
Which
kids coming out.
I work down the street, or I live down the street.
Right.
Yeah.
And you actually say, well, look, you have the tools to do it yourself. Now, taking a little bit of license there because not everybody can do it. I know some people that have a small business that they are just, they could build you a house, but they can't send an email.
Right.
But they know there's somebody
can.
in their family that could do it.
Well, right.
You know
Yes,
what I mean?
yes.
And all they have to do is look at your tips on that. What's the name of the vlog again?
It's the Get Attention vlog and
Get
podcast.
Attention. Yeah.
So, and the idea in my mind, where that name came from. Wow, that's perfect English, guys.
He's a great
I've been
writer.
working all day.
He's a great writer, this guy.
I've won awards for it, but then I fell apart. Anyhow, I don't even know where I was going. I said
The Get Attention vlog
Yeah,
and why
so-
you named it that.
thank you. When you work a good 10+ hour day shooting, and then you're like, I'm going to hang out with my friend on a podcast, the flaws in your being come out. But no, get attention. You've got to get attention in life. Bottom line. And you might not need a ton of attention, but even at its simplest, you want to get married someday, you got to get the attention of your spouse. You want to get a waiter to bring you your meal and it's not happening. You got to get attention. That's a simple thought, but we really, as humans, do have to a degree master getting attention. And if you dare to be an entrepreneur, if you dare to operate a small business in any way, or a big business, you have to hone those skills even more.
Yeah.
And it's tough for small businesses. You're a small business owner. I've got mine, and you've got finite resources. Time and money are both very finite in that world, and you've got to get scrappy on how you're going to go get attention. And I want to help the scrappy people.
Scrappy do.
Yeah, scrappy dappy do.
That's it's very inspiring because I think back of when I first met you and you went out on your own. Now I'm gonna bottle you up into a little package here.
All right. Hopefully it's not too tight. I don't like confined spaces.
I think it's so cool that you went out on your own. You started your thing, right? And you just had faith that you could do it. And here you are operating in 2 cities. You're doing and elsewhere.
Yeah,
I've seen
been in
you've been
30
all
plus
over the
cities
place
over the last 2 years.
You're doing fantastic projects. You're also doing this vlog to try to help people help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a family.
Yeah, and of course I've got the infant Wolverine at home too.
Oh, right, Wolverine, the new one. How old is Wolverine?
What day is today? Is today the 23rd? Yeah, I think it is.
You're not going to do it in weeks, are you? Still?
Well, no, but I am going to say that tomorrow is 6 months.
6 months.
Yeah. Wow. Time flies.
It certainly does. I know because my son is 15. And not months, that's years.
Yeah, whoa.
Wow. Crazy.
I see the gray.
That's why I keep my hair short. But yeah, I have a handful of calling you a mentor to me would be maybe a little much, but it's not too much because I aspire to do what you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you.
I have for years have aspired to do what you're doing, to say, I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to make my own rules, and I'm going to do things my way. And it's slowly getting there. I took a lot. I took a lot of backwards paths to get there. You know, it's just kind of the way things have worked out. But to be a small business owner and to achieve what you've achieved is really testament to your character and to your talent, because I know a lot of people that have tried and they have not succeeded, and it wasn't because they didn't have the talent, but I think it was because they might not have had that X factor that you have. And I wonder what that is. What do you think that is?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know that I could define the X factor and actually know for certain that I'm giving you the truth, but I will surmise my best guess,
which is the best humble answer that you could give at this point.
Yeah, and I appreciate your perception of where I'm at, and I don't think it's necessarily wrong, but I definitely haven't arrived either. I'm on a journey like everybody is, and I love the journey. But yeah, I mean, the X factor, some of it is just stupid hustle, man. I mean, I for many years worked, 80-hour weeks. Yeah. And that is just what a lot of small business owners have to do to make it happen. When my wife goes to bed, and the kids are asleep, I'm still up from 9:30 at night when I'm kind of going back to work till 1 or 2 in the morning. And then the kids are up around 7 a.m. to go to school. Sometimes it's hard to pull myself out of bed, and my wife will attest to the fact that I don't always make it out of bed in a timely fashion. But, I make sure that on 95% of the days, I'm, bleary-eyed and coffee in hand, seeing them out the door. Yeah. And as Shannon runs them out to school, I'm, power showering to wake my butt up, and then I'm doing the grind from 9 to probably 5:30 before we go right back into the family mode and repeat. So, I'm doing that at least 5 days a week. A lot of family demands right now with, little ones. So the weekends I'm trying to be dad. But even on the weekend nights, once everybody's asleep, I'm back at it. So I'm getting another whole work day in between Saturday and Sunday. It's just dark out. And I've lived that way, honestly, almost my entire adult life. And some of it I'm wired for. My first business I opened at 4 years old, and it was cash positive. It was a small manufacturing thing. I was making, profit about $1,200 a year at 4.
4 years old?
Yeah. It was key racks. My mom kept losing her keys. I saw at my friend's house that the family hangs their keys by the garage door, the door that goes out into the garage. Yeah. And so I was like, I can make those. So my grandpa and I went to a hardware store. I think back then it was Chase Pickin for the locals. And we bought wooden dowels and did some measurement, and he got a drill press and all this stuff. And he was already a woodworker. And I had to hand stain everything. I had to varnish it. I had to learn how to do all this stuff. And 4 years old, I was turning out product, man. And I had 2 for deals too. I mean, one of them was like $3, but 2 of them was $4.50. That's a massive discount.
Wow.
And I would door to door sell that, man. And you could even choose the yarn that you would hang it from. The yarn, I had colors, I had options.
Look at see.
And yeah, I was cash positive. And the thing is, my grandfather was a great mentor, and not just as a grandfather, but as a business person. I had to buy my materials. He invested, and then I had to pay him back. And he actually walked me through the entrepreneurship basics at 4 years old. So when I say I was cash positive, there were no gimmies. And so, that was a real thing. And then by 8 years old, I opened a different manufacturing concern where I could make my own stuff. I was selling handmade melted plastic Christmas ornaments, and every one of them was unique and custom. And I was cash positive with that. And, I've just kind of had a history of doing little things like that. You probably don't know this, but I had a massive business failure at about 25. And so, it's not always rosy, and I had to bounce back from that.
Do you want to go into
I can
any detail about that?
No, absolutely. So,
I mean, you don't have to go with the real detail.
No, there's some gritty details that I'll probably keep off the air because I like staying positive. And actually, I'll say now,
I'm looking for the bounce back part, not so much the fall.
Well, let me give you a little bit of the fall so you can be impressed by the bounce back because
there you go. Exactly.
So basically, what happened was I was getting my MBA, and my car broke down. So what do you do? You go find another car. But I was broke, but I had good credit. I don't really know why. But I was young. Usually have no credit. But anyhow, I was like, well, I'm going to make this work for me. So I actually ended up buying a pickup truck that already had a plow on it, financed it. And I was just going to grab driveways and do my homework in the car. In the truck. And
the idea is sound, but continue.
Yeah, well, the idea is sound. Well, through good business practices, if you fast forward a couple of years, that business ended up having, more than 7-figure value. So, I mean, if you want to look on paper and do voodoo math, I was kind of technically a millionaire in my mid-20s. And, my bank account wasn't at that high, and I definitely had a lot of leverage, a lot of debt, and that was, let's call it strategic and structured, but through some weird happenstances that I won't get into on the air, we crashed and burned pretty hard, and I lost everything, full bankruptcy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I went from being able to pretty much buy whatever I want, vacation whatever I want, when I had time. I mean, it was always, I was on the go all the time. I went down to not only not having anything, but also not having any identity. When you're the guy with the big business and you got the cash flow, you start mingling your personal perspective. At least I did. I started mingling my, who am I? I'm Josh Pye's owner of business. And when you're no longer owner of business, who is Josh Pye's? I didn't know I had an identity crisis at that point, but I really actually kind of did. I mean, I was being written up in national magazines for the good business practices we were doing and the rapid growth that we had. And I'll say that there was some like nasty stuff where I had a manager who was just fleecing us, and I didn't catch it because it was kind of a family-ish type thing, and that loss of cash is actually what killed the company. So I'd like to say that it's not like I was running a bad business or it's not like the economy
bad, like
hit
you
us.
said, it was just bad.
It was bad luck.
It was a bad thing
that just I didn't catch somebody acting out, and they acted out bad enough to crash a business.
Wow.
So anyhow, that's, mid 2000s. And, a couple of things ended up happening. One, you mentioned, that you aspire to do the Josh thing to a certain degree, for lack of a better description. And I know you're on the air, which I every time I'm in Rochester, I'm listening to Fickle because I'm listening to my friend. And you do a great job on the air. And I love talking to you. You're suited for this. I love this.
Thank you.
And I love that you've got this company that you're building and you're investing in yourself, because I remember when I lost everything, I had a choice to make. I could, wallow in it. I could start another business because I'm the business owner and I've got to be the business owner. I could have that ego, or I could go make money for my family and make it work.
Right.
And the very first thing I did was I don't have any medical anymore. So I went and I was working the paint desk at Home Depot in Henrietta. And that's really weird when you just finished your MBA and you're kind of the poster child for being a business owner, and the professors are buying paint from you at Home Depot. How humbling. I was also a bouncer at Taylor's. Yeah. Like, you want to talk about hurting the brain. I was a bouncer at Taylor's.
That's the funniest thing I've heard all week.
I know.
Not that I don't think you could be a bouncer, but just at Taylor's.
At Taylor's.
Did you bounce a lot of 75-year-old dudes out there?
Yeah, dude. I saw stuff.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah,
you got that 1,000-yard Taylor's stare.
All right. The flashbacks aren't pretty. It's not pretty. But I had to find money. And I couldn't let grass grow under my feet. We had a baby. I had to move.
Yeah.
And you do what you got to do for your family, because that's first. And I've known you long enough now to know some of the things that you've done in even the film industry, where you take the job that you don't want to take, but it's gonna pay the bills. It's mind numbing, but it's gonna pay the bills.
Yeah.
And on the bright side, at least it's in the film world and you're not digging a ditch, but you've done the things that the dad has to do to be the proper husband and father that you intend to be, and you're a good one, and I commend you for doing that, and that's what I had to do. And in the process of, in that time of my life, one of my best friends, Dave, and I tell this story, and I think it's morphed over time, but it's as close to the truth as I recall. He calls me, he goes, "Dude, I'm about to lose my job." I'm like, "You just got that job." And he's like, "Yeah, but I did something." And so his job, he was the church media director at Faith Temple Church in the Elmwood Avenue area. And they had a TV show that nobody was watching. And he read the stats and was like, "Oh my gosh, I got to pull this from the air. This show's been tanking for years, but nobody noticed." So a very responsible thing, he was pulling it from the air, but he kind of slayed the sacred cow. And so he was going to lose his job. And so he took it one step further and took all the cameras home and really kind of stake in the sand. I'm really taking it off the air. And it only got worse, not better.
Oh.
And
I assume they were his cameras.
No, they were church's cameras, but he was the media director and everybody knew where they were, but it was just kind of like, I'm not going to let you do what you're going to do to make a point.
Yeah.
So it wasn't thievery. It was just kind of strategy and chess and weird chess. And the church world's always interesting. I mean, you don't want to peel back the curtain on the church world. But the ultimate was for him that he was like, I got to put a show on that's better. And it sounds like there was like this war in the background. I don't want to make Faith Temple out to be anything other than the wonderful, beautiful people that I grew up with, because that's exactly who they are. And they give back to the community in ways that most people aren't even aware of. So good people, good church. But it was it was more comic in the background than anything. But still, he had to put a show on the air. And so he decided he was going to do a sketch comedy show a la Saturday Night Live, but it was at least going to be clean. And at least one sketch was going to have a scriptural backing to be a Christian show. But he needed help. So he reached out to me and he's like, "I need actors. I need writers. I'm in over my head."
Now, were you doing this at this point?
Nada.
Really?
Nada.
Because you're a business guy. You're a business major.
Well, I've got a pile of degrees, but none of which
pile of degrees.
I do. I've got 4.
Tell me about them. What do you got?
Business, economics, philosophy, all undergraduates, and I have my MBA in technology entrepreneurship.
See?
Yeah.
That all makes sense now. You're a smart guy. I have an AS in broadcasting.
Okay.
It's just missing the second S. Continue on.
Actually, you know what? Just in honor of broadcasting, they really should add the S. They really should. But yeah, so actually, it was kind of funny because he called really to ask if my wife would be on the show. We had just gotten married. And I was like, Shannon, being awesome as she is, she's like, "Well, I want to spend time with Josh. Can he do something too?" So he wasn't really asking me. He was just kind of buttering me up to get me to convince Shannon to be an actress on the show. Right. And so he's like, "Oh yeah, dude, I love hanging out with you. I love hanging out with you. Come on." So I was just kind of like along for the ride. And then, fast forward a couple of episodes. Now I'm writing, I'm producing, I'm directing, I'm acting. It's all volunteer stuff. We're all just thrown in. I mean, occasionally church would buy us pizza and stuff, but it was a church thing. Nobody's getting paid. And we as a group, it was like a club. First couple episodes were embarrassing. Now that I look back at it, they're funny, but for the wrong reasons. But now, like a year later, we're on in over 1,000 markets around the world.
Really?
Yeah. So it just happened to be, Dave's a great networker. He makes friends with people very easily, and he managed to make friends with people who genuinely had an interest in the show. And so it grew from local to local in Buffalo. Then in Buffalo, somebody who was in charge of 13 stations that were kind of a regional Christian group saw it, and they said, "Can we pick it up?" They did. So now we're on 15. Then somebody from Trinity Broadcasting Network, TBN, sees, they're probably watching the regionals, I assume, and sees the show, and they go, "Can we pick it up?" What nobody realized is they had white labels, and so they had this thing called JCTV, which is marketed towards teens and young adults, and it was all over the world. And so and in similar time frame, we ended up on a satellite network called Sky Angel, which is broadcast into the remote depths of the world: Kenya, Japan, Australia. So we were on in, I believe the final total, the peak was 1,007 markets every week when we were at our peak.
Wow.
And that was my first success in film and television, completely unpaid. And when we were starting to have that success is when my business was crashing. And so, my wife was, she has a lot of faith in me, thank God. I actually thought I was going to go be a cop. I was looking for stability for her. And, of course.
I did the same thing.
Did you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I took the civil service exam. I was going to be I applied for the civil bureau for the Monroe County Sheriff.
I took
which is laughable because I would not make a good police officer.
I don't know if I would have made a good street cop, but like puzzles, the idea of being a
detective.
detective.
Yeah.
I think from the playing Clue, I'm pretty freaking awesome at Clue. But I don't think being a detective and Clue are the same thing now that I'm an adult.
Detective Pies, what do you think? Yes, it was in the library with the candlestick. Colonel Mustard!
Yes, precisely. Yes. And that was going to be my answer to everything.
Exactly.
Which would have gotten me fired. So, but Shannon actually
Sir, this is an embezzlement case. He embezzled a lot of candlesticks.
You know what's really weird is I was just about to spurt out he embezzled a lot of candlesticks. So I mean, we're brothers from two different mothers. But yeah, so she was having nightmares that I was going to get like shot on the street or something, and I had to respect. It's a dangerous job. It is, it's a dangerous job. I'm grateful for those guys, and I didn't join their ranks. And she kept telling me, she goes, you love this so much. Can you do that? I said, nobody makes money in that. And she's like, no, somebody does. Look at Hollywood.
Yeah, somebody's got to do
it. Right. And I said, well, we live in Rochester. And so then what I did was I actually I printed out 150 resumes and 150 DVDs with episodes of 360 TV on it. And I got a map of Rochester, and I looked on Production Hub and on, was it Ad Hub or something like that? And found 150 businesses that were something media related, everything from Partners in Napier to Channel 10. And I mapped them out, and I drove to those neighborhoods and then walked to every one of them and demanded to see a decision maker and handed them a paper and a DVD.
Demanded to see a decision maker. How did that work out for you?
I would say out of 150, I saw maybe 10 decision makers. Yeah. And zero callbacks. From the ones where I just blindly handed them in, because I was not leaving without at least handing something.
Sure.
But actually my first glimmer of hope was Fred Armstrong. I showed up at Animatus, and everybody loves Fred. Fred, now that I know him so well, I mean, he was kind of the voice of reason on two fronts. It was, this can be a thankless grind, so get ready because the industry can eat people up. And if you've got a passion for it, and I see some real creativity here, you owe it to yourself to try. And then he ended it with, I don't have a job for you, but I have time for you.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah. Yeah. And that gave me the hope. And I kept pushing. And then Bill Moran from the radio.
Yep.
There was one day where I thought, well, maybe I should be on the air. Maybe I should be like a Fitz. We didn't know each other yet. But, so I called CMF, and when he was on CMF at the time, I called him and I asked, after one of the Wheeze episodes, I figured he had to at least still be there. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do something really unpodcasty. I'm getting FaceTime from my kids. Hold on. So I am on the air right now, Bella. Do you see this microphone?
Yeah, I see it.
You see it? Hey. So can I show you my friend Scott?
Sure.
Hi, Bella.
Hi, Scott.
How are you? Good.
So we're literally doing a podcast right now, and I'm telling stories, and I've brought my whole family up already, but I figured I would also answer this call. I'm sorry. It was on a chair, and I couldn't hear it vibrating because these big earmuffs are on. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Mom's feeding well right now, and I got this out.
Oh, okay. Did you finish reading Charlotte's Web yet? It's a great book.
I haven't read it. I haven't read that yet.
Some pig.
Okay. He knows the book. Did you hear that? He He just said some pig.
Zimmerman's Fantastic Pig.
Wow, this man is a literary genius.
It's from the cartoon, not the book, but that's okay.
Was it a good day at school today?
Oh, yeah. I had a cupcake. Can I say why?
Yeah, I'd love to know why you had a cupcake.
Well, today was Janaya's birthday.
Oh, that's cool. So she's like, what, 4 years older today?
She's 10 years old, Dad.
She's 10, but yesterday she was 6. I can do math. I wish you could see my daughter's face right now. She's got that like Cocker Spaniel tilted head thing.
So, where are you guys?
Well, I'm in Rochester. We're over in the Bushnells Basin area.
Is she back in Florida?
Yeah, she's in Florida right now. I mean, this is the magic of outer space. This is, I mean, literally, Bella, think about this. Your signal, your video is going to a satellite in outer space and coming down to my phone, and then my video signal is going back to a satellite and coming to your phone. It's magic. I swear, really. I mean, if anybody doesn't believe they can do amazing things with their cell phone, they're living in a world that I don't comprehend.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yesterday on Monday it was like kind of chilly, and today was like, I don't know.
It's supposed to snow here tomorrow, Bella.
I got to get my pool up. Or down, I should say.
Yeah, you do fast.
I haven't had time. I'm here all the time.
You could just tap a hole in the side. I'm sure the water will get out.
Yeah, chilly in Dern's friend, do you know what that is?
I do. Yep. Yeah, she did that today.
Yeah, today.
Yeah, is she tired?
Yeah, I think.
Is she even awake?
Tilly's a little crazy because she said that she did 10 laps.
Maybe she did 10 laps. Or maybe she was counting by fives. Because that would be 2 laps.
Hopefully, just did 5.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe she's a speedy runner. I mean, you know, somebody in her family could be. It's not me.
But if I did 4 laps on Monday, I'm in 4th grade, so she only did.
She probably did, Bella, she probably did less. But you know how she likes to add numbers to stories. So I see Scott over here marking this time in the podcast, just in case he's going to fade out and fade back in again, which I think would be wisdom on his part.
This is the problem with doing a podcast with someone who knows what I'm doing behind the curtain.
What's your podcast about?
You know, it's positive blatherings. So the podcast is about anything we want to talk about in general, but we're focusing on positivity.
Like when you tell me the positivity being like, what?
Well, yeah, I'm always preaching to you about, thinking positive, staying on the bright side. There's no way to fail. You can only learn. Every fail is an opportunity. Every test that you take is an opportunity to prove what you know, learn what you don't, and improve the next time. This is what I preach at home.
I'm like looking at the screen.
Nobody can see you. Nobody can see you. Just me.
What?
I just wanted to say hi.
Hi.
Hi. All right. I'll call you guys when I'm done.
Okay,
Bye. Bye, baby. I knew she forgot. That's okay. I just try not to ignore my family, especially when there's like 2 calls.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Of course not. That's the beauty of podcasting. I'll just cut the majority of that out and keep all the sweet stuff.
Cool.
I mean, it was all sweet. I have to be honest with you. That was it, and it was pretty cool because it was proof positive. It was proof positive. What do I always talk to you about? Positivity, looking on the bright side of things. You know.
Yeah, and I want to segue into that a little bit, but I don't want to leave the story hanging. Do you remember where we were in that?
Oh boy.
I think I was going to be a cop.
Yeah.
So, I mean, bottom line is,
and then it got picked
resumes.
up.
Well, I was putting the resumes out.
That's right.
So
right.
Fred, and then I called Bill Moran, and then so I called Bill, and he took my call, which was already gracious because when you're on the air, you got to take them to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
But after hours, who knows how each personality treats their personal life. But I told him just point blank, look, kind of my life fell apart-ish. I'm starting to get passionate about entertainment in general. And I don't know, maybe I want to go on the radio. And I said, how's life on the radio? Are there jobs in radio? Can you just tell me about it? And he more or less did the Fred Armstrong thing. And by the time we were done, he was just pretty much like, I'm in your corner. I don't even know you, but I'm in your corner. And if you need anything, I expect a phone call. I was like, holy cow. 2 people, total sweethearts, don't know me from Adam, saw a glimmer of something. And I mean, like I said, I lost my confidence from losing the business. I'm a guy with 4 college degrees, and I grew up in a world, and you did too, where there was this assumption that you get the college degree and then everything's magic from there. And it's a complete falsehood, but that really was the kind of the drug I was dealt as a kid, and I think a lot of us were. And when your world doesn't go that way, you're like, oh, shoot, now what's my perspective on the world? And I found very giving people who were ready to answer at least a call for intellectual support and emotional support as I was starting a new journey. And that just gave me energy. And then eventually I walked into EFP, to circle back to that. And they just at that point had let go their director of marketing and who was also a hybrid person because they were handling some producing. And I walked right into the role.
And what year was that?
2007.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe, no, it actually might have been 2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's very interesting. I interviewed at EFP in 2001.
Wow. Yeah, they've been around a long time. They're a staple in our area.
The first time I moved to Rochester.
That's
first
right,
of many times.
Yeah, you've been back and forth a little bit.
Yeah. But 2007 was when I moved back permanently.
Okay.
And I got moved back with the job at J Advertising. And in 2008 was when I got laid off.
Right.
And went into freelancehood, quote unquote.
Yeah. It's big ad agencies are interesting to me, and especially during that time frame with the economic shifts that were happening and a lot of the ad agency.
It was the GM account that I was on, and GM.
Yep.
So if you think about it, around the same time we were both
hitting some bottoms. Yeah.
And we don't mean in the locker room talk time.
No, yeah. Boy, we've managed to have some entendres tonight.
It's like
doubles,
company.
triples, take them all.
Hey.
This is Venus Flytrap, and this is Double Entendre. It's late night with Fitz and Venus.
Now you're going to do the whole turkey drop thing, right?
Oh, best episode on the planet. I watch it every Thanksgiving.
One last question.
Okay.
Because we're way over time. But
I don't care.
It's been a fun
care.
Conversation. So I don't care either. But I have other work to do.
I don't.
But you need to get some sleep. You've been shooting all day.
Yeah, this is true.
What would you say to someone? What advice would you give someone who's a youngin', just on their way up to try to get into the voodoo that you do?
Okay, so we're talking
production
world.
Like, and I don't mean generalized advice. Like, what would you say that someone coming into the business right now, just out of school, would have a leg up on everyone else if they knew this one thing? And
wow,
it's tough.
That is a tough one, but I like it.
It's tough to do, but there's got to be, at least from your perspective, one thing.
Give me a second on that one. You can edit out all of the dead air.
Let's see, do I have any music for that?
Oh, you have hot buttons. I love it. Do you have the Jeopardy theme song?
I have this.
And I'm guessing you're probably pretty dumb too, which is why you're here listening to me talk.
And
wow.
Yeah, no, I love it. That's great. So the leg up thing. I
really stumped him on this one.
I think you did stump me.
That's I don't think I can answer the. For me, I would have to say, if I were to ask myself that question, I would say be a good writer. No story.
Yeah, it's funny too, because actually that's a term that everybody's like, branding and story are these buzzwords that I don't think It's like in The Princess Bride, you keep using that phrase. I don't think you know what it means. And really, I feel like there's a ton of people who don't actually know what it means to tell a story. Writing is art and science. And, I'm a very competent writer for business purposes. The B2B space really embraces me. But in doing that, I'm using proper format. I'm telling a story that is more than beginning, middle, and end. There's actually structure that I'm employing. Actually, you know what? If students, newbies knew how to freaking outline, that would change their lives. And let me tell you a micro story that hopefully it doesn't turn into a macro. When I got my degree in philosophy, we were the rigors of writing for philosophy are actually a little bit painful. And we used to do these things called exegesis, or exegeses if there's more than one of them. And basically, you would take one thought from a text. So we're reading Plato's Theaetetus or the Republic, and let's go with the Republic. Most people know that one. And the allegory of the cave. We wouldn't even talk about the allegory of the cave. We'd take one phrase, one idea from the center of that story, and have to write 1, maybe 2, maybe 3 pages with a lot of evidence, a lot of detail. You were not allowed to have your own original ideas. It was supporting a way of interpreting somebody else's thought. And it could take days and weeks to write these things.
Wow, that is painful.
And you would have to submit an outline before you were allowed to start writing. Yeah. And the teacher had to approve your outline before you could actually start formulating paragraphs. And frequently you were encouraged to outline the paragraphs before you were allowed to write sentences. I mean, it was detailed.
Wow.
And it was writing boot camp. If you want to become a screenwriter, don't go to school for screenwriting. Go to school for philosophy, because the rigors of writing are such that you are literally in the Marines of writing.
Wow.
But so I learned how to outline like a frickin' boss. And every project that I have ever done, including comedy writing, figuring out how to set up a joke. I mean, you're not going to write the joke and get the nuances down before you get the essence of the joke. And the essence of the joke might be that, it's setup, distraction, setup, payoff. You might actually put almost like a iambic pentameter, poetry thing going on. And
oh my goodness,
A, B, A, C structure or something like that, where you need to actually be able to distill down your ideas into a structure. Because any story has to have plot points that are almost like creating an argument. You're building a thread. And great book, Save the Cat. By, I forget the guy's name.
Blake Snyder.
Blake Snyder, right.
Yeah.
So I love that book for its simplicity because it talks about having 15 beats to a script, a commercially viable script.
Yep.
And we're not talking art house. We're talking about making your money back then some in the theater because it's pop culture. And you've got your peaks and your valleys to it, and it does follow the traditional high school understanding of there's a beginning, middle, and end, rising action, falling action. You can think of it that way, but there's that up and down on that line that are the 15 peaks and valleys that are the beats. And, understanding that is helpful, but understanding that actually distills down to what is analogous to an outline. And you can write that down in a linear fashion on a couple pages of paper and plot out the entire plot of your script. You can do it for a short film. You can do it for a feature. You can do it for a TV commercial. You can do it for a corporate spot. Every corporate spot has to have that. And if you're not doing it, you don't know what you're doing. Bottom line. So if you're right, writing, I'm going to stick with you on this one. Writing is probably, because it's not a camera. everybody, and we were joking about this before. Everybody's like, "Oh, you didn't use the 5D Mark IV on that? How dare you use a 2, you slacker, you jerk, you joke." Like, get over yourself.
Yeah.
Shoot it on your cell phone and write a good script. I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not really the tools, it's the quality of the person. And if you have control over story in your world, then own it. Write it.
I like that. And on that note, my friends, this is Rico.
And this is Venus Flytrap. Yeah, can we turn off the music for a second? Yeah, I'm not ending your show yet. I'm not allowing this to happen. We brought up WKRP in Cincinnati, and we didn't test your knowledge. Do you know the song? This is bonus material. People are going to have to get this later. Baby, if you ever wonder
whatever became of me.
Yeah. I'm living on the air in Cincinnati, WKRP. I got tired of packing and unpacking, round and round, up and down that dial. Baby, you and me were never meant to be, but baby, think of me once in a while. I'm at WKRP in Cincinnati. Oh, we did that. Now the show's done.
Josh Pies, ladies and gentlemen, C47 Films.
This is not alcohol.
What you want? I can attest to that. That's Rockbox Coffee. What's your website? C47films.com?
Yeah, that's one of them. And getattention.work. That's another one.
.work? All right.
Get to work.
I'm so glad that you were in town and you could stop by.
Me
Thank
too,
you so
dude.
much.
Thank you.